Hello, everyone. Black Thinny Guy Tano here. So it seems like Anthony Fantano has been making a lot of people in the metal community pretty angry. He's been ruffling some feathers and stuff, but I guess he does that in pretty much, I think, in all music genres in their communities, because there's always some sort of take that he has that some people get really upset about. And since he is very influential as far as reviewing music, I understand why people get upset. Maybe they shouldn't get too upset, because at the end of the day, it is just his opinion, and his opinion really shouldn't affect how you perceive something, that, you know, how you feel about something. However, that's kind of the reason why some critics, some reviewers exist, right? Sometimes you want to, like, I trust this person and I want to hear their take, and then maybe I'll pick up the record or maybe I'll listen to it, because now it's like, now you can just stream it. It's not like you have to really gamble anymore. Back in the day, going to like Tower Records or Sam Goody's or whatnot, and then you're kind of gambling, is this good or not? Because maybe you only got to hear a single or something. And then you're like, this album's trash, and you just waste your money. Now you just stream and you're like, I didn't like this, and then you can kind of just go about your business. So it's even less towards like, why are you so upset? But alright, so the reason why the people in the metal community are upset is, first, it was Sleep Token. Sleep Token dropped their new album recently. I think it's called Take Me Back to Eden. More or less, right or wrong, I might be paraphrasing. But yeah, I remember watching Anthony Fantano's his take on it, and I think he gave it a light 2. And I was like, wow, pretty harsh. He just thought it was too cookie cutter. It wasn't, there's a lot of different elements into Sleep Token's album, and he just thought it was extremely underwhelming. And I kind of understand to a certain extent, but then there's other parts, like, say, my whole take on that was that I would prefer Sleep Token to just be more of a metal band with, like, djenty riffs and stuff, because I think they do that very well. And some of the other stuff that they experiment with, it's not my favorite. It's not anything I really want to listen to. When dude is rapping, I'm like, I don't care for it. When, there's like a very soft, poppy type of song that sounds like something that Ed Sheeran and his team would have wrote, that I'm like, I don't care for this at all. This is just not my bag. And so, to a certain extent, I kind of understand what he was saying. But I still think that Light 2 was pretty harsh, because I think there was a handful of songs on that album that I liked. So, maybe like 3 to 4 or something that I'm like, these are good. I like these. So I wouldn't have given it something that low. Now we go on to the thing, the not good. So it's not even like when he does the not good, you already know what you're in for, and everybody's here for it. If you look at, say, some of his highest rated videos, it's the not good ones, because people like to see these takes, man, whether they're going to disagree or agree. And so Avenged Sevenfold dropped their album Life Is But a Dream, and it's been extremely polarizing. I already put out my take on the album, where it's not for me. I mean, I said congrats to them for experimenting, but definitely not for me. It's definitely not something that I want to play. I mean, and I've already said that the track Nobody has kind of grown on me. It still sounds bizarre, but I kind of like it. I can't say that much for anything else where it hasn't grown on me. And I can even admit that, this sounds kind of decent, this sounds pretty good, I like this part here, but nothing else has had that impact on me from that album. And Anthony Fantano just goes hard in the paint, and it was very entertaining. It was actually pretty funny. And he said something that I hadn't even considered, because he says, like, maybe they wanted to, Avenged Sevenfold maybe wanted to piss off the record label, Warner Brothers or whatever. Maybe this is them trying to get out of the contract or whatever. I don't even know the extent of their contract or anything, but I thought that was pretty funny, because this isn't the first time you've seen stuff like this happen, or just having like some sort of riff with their record label, and then it's kind of like Slipknot and Roadrunner. Slipknot and Roadrunner started off with an amicable relationship, and then over the years, different changes, different people and stuff, and it just got kind of soured to the point where Slipknot rushed their last album so they can just be done. It's like, this is the last album on our contract, and then we're going to be free. So they rushed it, and then the album came out underwhelming, unfortunately, but at the same time, I'm happy that they are no longer under the clamps, and now they can just be creative and take their time with whatever they want to do. So that's just one angle of it. It's something, and I feel like maybe Anthony was like half joking when he was saying that, but at the same time, it is something that could be true. And then say the members of Avenged Sevenfold would never say that publicly, because obviously that would just make things infinitely worse with the relationship, and then maybe they would even seek damages for sabotage, all that kind of stuff. So, but at the same time, I would lean more towards that's not the case, and they just legitimately wanted to experiment. And since Avenged Sevenfold is one of the biggest metal bands in the world, they would probably still be like, we trust you. I imagine the numbers will still do good regardless. This is such an interesting album that there's going to be a lot of controversy, which that's going to get a lot of people to stream it too. A lot of people that probably haven't listened to Avenged Sevenfold in years probably listen to this. I imagine Anthony Fantano is one of those people. Because he even said in his review that he's always thought Avenged Sevenfold was fine. It was just a fine band. Not great, but they're always good. Like, he's never had an issue with their music. Like he said, he gets what they do. And so probably as they've put out some records over the years, he probably skipped them. I don't know. I would have to go back and watch his catalog, but I'm just kind of just guessing. There's a lot of albums that he skips. He can't get to all of them, so he gets to the one that piques his interest, or he knows that people actually really want him to review, right? And so I respect that. I get that as a job. That you kind of have to pick and choose which you're gonna do or not. But it's been pretty interesting watching people's takes on Fantano's review. There's a consensus of his review is extremely entertaining. There's a lot of people that aren't surprised. There's people that are going in there and saying they really enjoyed this. But one of the things that I've noticed for the people that said they've enjoyed this album, it is overwhelmingly people are saying they're enjoying it as an experience. It is a DMT trip. It is an ayahuasca. It's a drug-induced ride of an album. It's an experience. And so then I asked the question, but how's the music? And I feel like all of those people that are saying that, they understand the music's weird and it's not something that they really want to listen to on repeat. It is something that you need to experience, like going to a theme park. You don't want to go to a theme park every other day. You don't want to go. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some freaks that go to Disneyland all the time, and they are freaks. But most normal people don't want to go to Disneyland every other damn day, right? They want to go every once in a while for that nice experience. And I think that's what this album is going to be to those people, an experience. That's what essentially the language they're using. They're not vibing off of the brilliantly written songs that are really going to touch them and speak to them. It's just something that they're like, this is a trip. It's been really entertaining. This is really fun to listen to. And if that's what you got from it, that's dope, because you don't need to be, I always hated when people always need you to feel a certain way, right? It always reminds me of religious zealots when they're like, I need you to feel the way I feel about this. And I'm like, if you don't, then you don't. If you don't even like it at all, cool, right? Like I saw some people even in the comment section saying things like, how could you be a fan of their old stuff and call this a masterpiece? Which technically is fair, because when you had things that were very on a similar plane, and then you have something that is completely out of left field, it is an interesting question to be like, well, did you like their stuff before? Or do you just like anything that they do? Or what is it? So some people get curious, and you don't need to offer an explanation to anybody. It's just curiosity, because I do get curious about that stuff too. It's just the same. I just released a video about Saint Anger, where the people that enjoyed Saint Anger, I'm like, why? How? It's it's one of those things. But yeah, I think people are starting to understand what's happening. They're seeing that the musicians, the dedicated musicians, particularly guitarists, I'm really seeing a lot of guitarists really enjoying this record more than anything. I'm seeing a lot of guitarists that are just really good at shredding. They're like, I really enjoy the directions this is taking me in. People who are traditionally vocalists, I've seen kind of bouncing around takes. And then I've just seen people who aren't musicians, but who are just lovers of music. I've seen a lot of them say they don't like this album. I totally get it. And the thing is, don't feel bad. The Avenged Sevenfold knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that this was going to be the reception. They didn't care, and I say take that for what you will. You could be maybe disappointed if you're a diehard fan and expected them to release something like where a lot of people considered the Stage album a masterpiece. There's a lot of people who consider that a masterpiece, right? And maybe some people were like, oh, I really hope there's something adjacent to that. And since they didn't get that, they could be extremely let down. And they're like, oh man, do we have to wait another 6-7 years for another record that is maybe where they return back to what they normally kind of sound like? Or are they going to just go in this direction? I wonder what's going to happen. And that could be very confusing to diehard fans that have been around since way back in the day, the Seventh Trumpet crap or whatever it was called. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not trashing the album. I just can't remember exactly. It's something along the lines of that. So do I think Anthony went too hard in the paint? No, I really don't. This was expected. I thought it was extremely entertaining. I thought he really came with the jokes. I thought he really went hard in the paint on them. And I imagine M Shadows and crew would probably appreciate this review. I think they'll find it highly entertaining if any of them ever decide to watch that. I know there's a lot of artists, right, that are extremely sensitive because their art is tied to them, to their ego, to their heart and soul. So there's a lot of people who get very offended when they have negative things said about them. But I always feel like it's a part of the gig, man. You can be an artist that's in obscurity, or you can be an entertainer that is trying to amass an audience. And then you gotta get the good and the bad, man. It's Pandora's box. And so it's something that I feel like I always love when Kratos in the 2018 God of War, where he's telling his son to close his heart, you know, to like basically to sympathy and empathy, essentially, like close your heart to the pain and suffering of others and whatnot. And then of course, you know, if you played the second one, then he's like, nah, don't do that for him. But I think that just in general, for some people, they do need a little bit of that. They do need to harden their hearts to a certain extent, not be completely closed off to where you're just a complete sociopath. But it's just like, some people get too offended, like just even looking at some of the comments and just what people are saying, they're getting offended on Avenged Sevenfold's behalf. And I'm like, bro, they're grown-ass men. They're going to be fine. They are fine. They're a very wealthy and successful band. They're going to be okay. So if there's people trashing this album, okay. Do you like it? Cool. Keep on listening to it. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Fantano, thank you for the review. That was very entertaining. And I want to make love to your bald head.